Baldur's Gate 3 just made a decision that will make your classes unbelievably overpowered. How will they be overpowered? Well, we'll see here. With the announcement of multiclassing in their most recent update, they are, talking how multiclassing will be available. And one of the big caveats here is that usually when you multi-class classes in D&D like games, you usually have to have some kind of prerequisite, whether it be like 13 strength, wisdom, intelligence, or something like that. They have to have a good enough main stat to even consider multi-classing into something, and it's kind of a way to balance things out. So like if you only put all your points in dex and don't have at least 13 int, you can't become a wizard. But Larian Studios has decided to remove that from Baldur's Gate 3 and say, you know what, if you want to make a character, you can make any kind of character you want up to level 12. They can be any mixed match or mixed match version of whatever you want to create, which is going to leave to some very, very strong classes. I've been messing around with it a little bit to figure out like what kind of really strong classes I can make in a single round or first turn action and how much damage I can put out at level 12 without really using any big resources. And it's quite a lot. It had a combination of a Gloomstalker Rogue level 3, Fighter level 6, and Assassin Rogue level 3, because these are all available classes that are going to be in Baldur's Gate at launch. And, well, let's go over that a little bit. I have a little notepad over here where I broke it all down. So, as being a fighter, you're going to get Action Surge, which is going to be a huge benefit to any class that is using some kind of physical damage. So if you are going to be using bows or you're going to be using melee attacks, Action Surge at level 2, or at least a level 2 dip in the fighter, is going to be supreme, but we're going level 6 in the fighter. This means, and we're also going into champion fighter, this means that we, at our max level of 12, split across all the classes, we will have at least 2 attacks that will crit at 19 because we are a champion fighter. We'll be able to pick 2 fighting styles because we pick up 1 fighting style from a fighter and 1 fighting style from ranger. So we're going to go with a bow build here. So I'm going to pick up Archer and Defense. Archer just gives you +2 to your attack rolls, so it's going to make it a lot easier to hit stuff, and Defense is just an additional AC. And having more armor class is always going to be a huge benefit. We'll also have Hunter's Mark, which is going to be a bonus action to cast Hunter's Mark onto a mob, and at the current level that we will be using it, because we'll only be level 3 in a Ranger, it will be an extra 1d6 every time it's hit by us. Then we'll do Dread Ambusher from Gloomstalker. That will give us more initiative based on the wisdom that we're going to have. And it will also give us an extra attack if we attack that turn. So if we do 2 attacks, regardless, our attack action, the Gloomstalker, will give us an additional attack that we can do. And if that hits, it also does an additional 1d8 of damage. So that's a lot of extra damage. We also will get 2 ability score improvements, or ASIs. Unless you take feats, you can't take feats, and instead of taking these ASIs, you can try to grab something from the feats, and there are a lot of really good feats that you can take. I believe Sharpshooter is in there, but there's a lot of other feats that do give you dexterity, at least 1 point, and then some other bonus. So you can kind of like mix things up there if you want to be a little bit more versatile other than just straight damage. We'll also be going Assassin Rogue and getting that to level 3, which means we will have auto crits if they are surprised and we attack them first in the round. Our first attack will be a crit no matter what. And we also get advantage if we are first in the initiative order. So if we're playing Halfling, which gets a +2 to dexterity, I believe, and grab all its ASIs, we can get up to level 20 dex, or 20 dex and 14 wisdom for that extra initiative. That's excluding all magical items. So if we did have magical items, but we don't know what kind of magical items there are going to be other than what's in the base early access right now, when the game comes out, this could be even higher than what it is right now, because there are items in D&D games that make your ability scores go higher than 20, but they are exceedingly rare usually. So again, we have 20 dex, we have 14 wisdom, and that means that if we get first in initiative and we are in a surprise round, we will be critting on our first attack, and we will get advantage pretty much every point from there, because it would be it would be coming out of a sneak attack. or stealth to be doing sneak attacks. And so advantage the whole time and guaranteed first crit. Being advantage means we get to roll twice. That means we're twice as likely to crit by getting a 19 or 20, which is very, very good. So our first attack, with everything all combined, all the ASI scores from Archer and our proficiency bonus, which the proficiency bonus is cumulative level, so you don't actually get gimped by multiclassing and having your proficiency be lower. It's actually your total level combined. So even if we go level 6 fighter, level 3 rogue, and level 3 ranger, we don't actually get a downside by being a fighter, only level 6, because that's our highest level. We'll still cumulatively be 12 levels and get the higher proficiency, which at that level it should be +4. So again, our first attack will have an 11 to hit, which is a pretty nice bonus. That's going to be, +5 from Art X, our level proficiency +4, and then the +2 from Archer, totaling 11. So our first attack, if we're getting first at initiative and we're hitting that crit, because we're coming out of sneak and we have all those advantages, is going to be a 2d6 because it's guaranteed crit if it's a surprise. From a longbow, 2d6 from sneak. You can only use sneak once per round or turn, so it's the only sneak damage that we're going to be able to get out. And then 1d6 from the mark that we would be casting before we engaged or as a bonus action at the very beginning of our turn that doesn't break us out of stealth and have us be seen. Then we have our second attack, which is another longbow attack, and it's also going to have the mark damage. And now we're getting into our extra attack, which is going to be coming from Ambusher. Since we did our 2 attacks, we get that additional attack from the attack action, which is going to allow us to do another 1d8 from our longbow, plus the 1d6 from the hunter's mark, and another 1d8 from the ambusher, as long as it hits. And then we get into the glorious, glorious spot of, well, because we are a fighter, we have action surge. So that means that we can now do 2 more additional attack actions, which is going to be another 1d8 and a 1d6 twice. And then the great thing about that is having an additional attack action or action surge also gives you an additional bonus action, which means at the very end of our turn, we can still use cunning action from rogue and go into hiding again. It doesn't mean it's going to be successful, and we won't be able to do as much damage as we did in our first round because there was a lot of conditional stuff that only works in the first round and only is if you're first at initiative and surprising them. But still, we're going to be whipping out a lot of damage even without all those bonuses. So really, it adds up to a lot. We're talking in our first round, we're going to be hitting at very least a 68 because we're doing 5 attacks, and one of those is going to be a crit more than likely. Then we're hitting 2d6, which is our sneak attack. We're hitting 5d6 because we did 5 attacks, and that's 5 pop-offs on the hunter's mark that we put them on for the bonus round, and then 1 additional 1d8 from the Dread Ambusher move, which is going to, if we'd hit max damage on all of those things, which is very unlikely, or probably not, but if we did, we would be able to max out at 108 damage from a single attack from a single person in your party in the first round before it really even begins, which is an absolutely incredible amount of damage. I'm probably maybe miscalculating things a little bit on here. Like we could probably lower stuff down a little bit, or I might be, things might not work the way that I'm expecting to them, rules as written versus rules as intended, and what bonuses they're going to have if they have calculated all of these things out in game. I'm hoping they have, they've been working on this for a really long time. I think early access came out in 2020, so now we're almost 3 years later. So I'm hoping that all these things are going to work together because that would be really, really good. Make it extremely OP classes because you can multi-class with literally no limitations. And the crazy thing is, even if like this doesn't end up working and I put all this investment into my class and I'm like, this is what I want to do, this is my class, and this is this one guy that is like the character that I'm making that I have full customization over versus being a origin character and not having 100% customization because they do start in certain classes. If you mess up, you could just be like, well, I re-roll. there's another thing that they added in this update or news that it is that you can respec classes. They added in a NPC that's going to be found in the early stages of Act 1 that if you felt like that you messed up and that you put points in the wrong area or you grabbed the wrong class or you feel like your idea just really isn't working, you could just go back to this character and be like, "Hey, I want to do something else. I want to be a different character. I want to be this," and you can just respec your entire class, which is really really crazy. I didn't expect them to put in something like this. Like typically when you take something, unless you're in an actual D&D game, you might be able to convince your DM like, "Hey, this isn't really something that I wanted. Can I respec into something else?" And they might let you do that, or they might just make you live with your choices. But I do like that this is an option that you can just respec classes, and now you have this. You can just try anything out, anything you see on Reddit or on a video or whatever. You can be like, "I want to see if that works," and then you could just do it all over again, which I think is freaking amazing. Absolutely amazing. I think it's probably one of the coolest things that they've added in because it just allows for so much variety. But yeah, I'm really surprised that they removed the multi-classing requirements here because it's like those multi-classing requirements do exist for a reason. So like the drawback of multi-classing is usually you're going to have to put points into other stats you would otherwise normally not have high enough to do it, right? How many dex based archers or in some way archer class that you're playing is going to have also high strength. 13 strength's probably only going to be like a 12 or 11. And then same with going into like other things, like if you wanted to be a fighter but then you also wanted to be a wizard or a druid or something that uses wisdom or intelligence, and it's like usually you pick a stat that you kind of dump off a little bit to make your main stat for your attacks be better, just so you have a better time in combat. And now you don't have to worry about that at all. You can just go full blasting all the way on your main damaging stats and not have to care about anything. Shoot, if I don't remember if there is rolling your stats in Baldur's Gate 3. It's been a really long time since I played. I only played when the game initially came out in 2020. But I imagine that we're going to be using point buy most of the time in the game. And yeah, it's going to be probably some really big damage. Like the ideas that are going to come out now that you don't have to have meet any requirements to do this. You're gonna see some builds pop up on YouTube and other places about how ridiculously strong their classes are. But anyways, I just wanted to share this. I thought this was crazy. How good multi-classing can be when you're thinking from it from like a min-max perspective, especially since it's a game and min-maxing is going to be kind of more important than like role playing in a tabletop game. Is where other things come in. But in a game of numbers where you're fighting against other people who are also trying to do numbers to you, this is going to be big damage. But anyways, I will see you guys later. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.